Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I know it's been a long time. I got pretty sick for a week or so, fell off the horse, but we're back. I didn't leave you guys, don't worry. I figured it's been a while since I've done a low level tanking video as far as, what to do, what to look out for, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and look at a dead mines that I did actually just last night. This is another warrior that I have, no chest piece, two-handed sword challenge. This video is off the script, so honestly, I might be a little rusty here. So we're going to be bouncing around, kind of talking about a little bit everything when it comes to low-level tanking. So I hope this video does help, especially for a lot of the new players that either come to my stream or are overall just looking for a better grasp of how to tank at a low level so you don't get discouraged. Because trust me, I know Doomhowl needs tanks. I can only imagine every other server out there needs tanks. So going ahead and looking, before we even get started, I want to talk about my group. So we have a druid, a rogue, a mage, and a shaman. Now, why I'm telling you this is simply because you should be knowing going into your group what you have as far as CC, or what you have as far as a potential off tank, or, okay, so I have a druid, so I have War Stomp for Van Cleef later on, or I have an extra off heal from the druid. I have a sheep with the mage. I have a, Frost Nova. You should just always be in the habit of kind of like dissecting your group. So if I need something from this mage, I probably should mark it. Next thing I want to take a look at is, obviously you can't really see this, but 2 of the DPS in my group are actually higher level than me. Now this could be a problem, and actually the rogue is level 25, so pretty over level for dead mines, but it was late at night, we couldn't find anything else. I want you to keep this in mind when you see the rogue pulling thread on a couple of the mobs. I think a lot of people, low-level tanks, get really discouraged when a DPS player just pulls thread on them, and then they just kind of get all defeated about the purpose. But don't worry about it. We're going to talk about that. So let's go ahead and get started a little bit here. So honestly, looking at my bars, like that's all you need for low-level tanking. Revenge, Heroic, Taunt, and Sunder. And you'll find that throughout this whole video, I do not leave defensive stance. There's no reason to. There's no reason to leave defensive stance, especially in a tight enclosed dungeon like Dead Mines, where you're just constantly always pulling. There's no reason to leave defensive stance at these low-level dungeons. Honestly, you can stay in defensive stance pretty much all the way up until like the SMs. So that includes SFK, BFD, Stockades if you're Alliance. There's no reason to switch stances. The number one common mistake I see, and I was actually just on my shaman the other night, that I see from low-level tanks is they charge and then they press Thunderclap and then they swap stances and then everybody starts DPSing because they think Thunderclap holds threat, and then the mobs go all over the place and the tank has no rage because they don't have tactical mastery. So that what they do is they think it works, but it does not work. Thunderclap is an extremely overrated ability in Classic WoW. It only affects 3 mobs in Classic. A lot of people are thinking Thunderclap as the same like powerful threat gaining ability as like Cataclysm or Wrath of the Lich King, even TBC. It's not. It's mainly used for a debuff, and honestly that debuff, it doesn't become extremely useful until either you have leftover rage from tactical mastery or you're doing endgame raid bosses. So number one mistake is people go into these dungeons, they charge, they press Thunderclap, they swap to defensive stance, they have no rage, and then they're like, oh, what do I do now? And then all the mobs are just running all over the place. Do not worry about Thunderclap. Thunderclap is a massive low-level trap that you should not even be using, not even worried about it. Look, if you're having problems in your group that you need a attack speed debuff in a low-level dungeon, you have way bigger problems than if you need Thunderclap, right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna skip around here. So as I said, my bars are pretty simple, literally Revenge, Heroic, and I'm not even really using Heroic unless I have excess rage. I'm clear about that in all my videos, and Sunder. My rotation at this low level is literally just Sunder and Cleave, and Revenge when you need it. So Sunder, Revenge, Cleave. That's it. That's all you should be using. That's all you need to use. Next, I want to talk about shouts. A lot of people are getting shouts confused. Like they think that I'm just talking about them in my videos for no reason. But the point of shouts is to gather up the mobs. Shouts. Look, If I didn't shout there, they're running all over the place. You can see here in the bottom right-hand corner that the shout did 70 threat. It's not a lot of threat. The shouts are not a lot of threat, but if you stack a demo shout with a battle shout, that gives you enough threat to round up the mobs and keep everything contained. Your shouts are important at a low, especially at a low level. They help you gather up the mobs and they kind of let you settle down and get into that rotation without worrying about them running all over the place. Now, here's another thing I want to talk about too is, do you see this rogue just blasting on this non-elite? Low level tanks panic on that and they think, oh God, I got to hold threat on that. And they'll just blow their taunt on that mob. It's a non-elite. It's not going to kill anybody. To be honest, if you have a target that's just hitting one of your team members, it's not a big deal. They're not going to die from that, right? You don't need to be blowing your whole rage bar trying to hold threat on one mob because a guy's blowing cooldowns on one of those mobs. So let's say I'm tanking 3 of these Defias Overseers. One of them gets pulled on me and it's hitting the rogue. It's not the end of the world. Just let it go. It has nothing to do with anything really. Like, you're not going to die. You're not going to wipe from that. And I see a bunch of low level tanks blow their rage bar trying to hold threat on that one mob, and then they end up losing the other mobs. Your rotation, again, is very simple. Sunder, revenge when you have it, and use your shouts. I try to do a demo and a battle shout right away before I even start that Sunder rotation. If you can get them bunched up, not only do you have a more contained, safe spot for your players to start damaging, they're also hitting you. If the mobs are hitting you, you're getting more rage from that. I think a lot of people are also here. I'm going to kind of go off topic here, but I think a lot of people are getting taunt confused. When you taunt, you overlap the threat of what that highest taunt player had for threat. So if a guy has 868 threat on a mob and I press taunt, I now have 868 threat on that mob. So anything I do over that, I'm going to hold threat after the taunt. I think people use taunt too much and they start to use it as a crutch. You should only be taunting either if you lose threat on a boss, or if you have, 2 or 3 mobs that are all over the place and you need to contain probably the most deadly one. People are just using taunt on cooldown and then they're just not even doing anything to the mob that they taunt, and then they wonder why it runs off again because, well, you took the top threat, but you didn't do anything with it after that, so you just let it run off again. I think people get like a weird misconception about taunt, and I think that's part of the problem too. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of skip around. Now look at this. Look at my rage bar. This is a great spot to take the look at this. I never try to let my rage bar dip below about 30%. Deadmines is a great dungeon for you to learn how to have a pace as a tank. I don't have anger management. I don't have tactical mastery. How am I going to keep my rage going? Now you're going to see I have a Sunder on the mob here, correct? Look, I haven't pressed anything else other than auto attack. I am now using this mob. If I ever have a single mob, I am using that as rage bait. That mob is nothing to me but rage bait. Again, this goes back to what I was saying. If I lose threat on a single mob and let's say it's hitting that druid, I don't care. It's not going to kill anybody. I don't need to blow taunt. I don't need to blow more rage to try to hold threat on it. It's not going to kill anybody. A single mob is not going to do any damage to anybody. I don't care if people pull threat on it. I'm literally just using it to get rage to grab the next mob. As you can see, that mob's already almost dead. I have about 70% of my rage. I just got about, 15 extra rage off that mob. Now I'm going to go pull more. I have a full rage bar. My healer's good. I'm just going to go grab more mobs. Again, one Sunder, I crit. That's all I'm using. Look, I'm not using any more abilities. I'm going to the next mob. One Sunder or 2 Sunders is usually enough to hold the mob long enough for the DPS just to kill it after that. And if they pull threat, they're hitting the mob or they're hitting the player maybe 1 or 2 times. As you can see here, I'm literally just tab Sundering. I'm a little low on rage, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull another mob here. And look, they're dead. I just let 2 mobs hit my players for a little bit and look what it did. It did literally nothing. People are blowing their rage bar, like panicking that their group members are getting hit. You got to stop doing that. They're not going to die. So I have threat on that. I'm going to stop attacking that. I'm going to work on the other mob now. Look, I haven't touched this mob in about 5 seconds and it's still hitting me. I haven't wasted any more rage on it. I look at my threat bar. Oh, I had let's say I had 275 threat on it. The next guy had 31. I don't need to hit that mob anymore. I need to be working on the next mob. So now I'm here on this mob. I quit hitting this one because I don't need to anymore. The DPS is going to finish it. It's not going to pull threat. Let's start using this guy for rage. Look, I'm not doing anything to this mob anymore. He is officially rage bait. Anytime you have a single mob, it is rage bait for you. You need to understand that. So this guy pulls for me. One sunder, I have threat. I throw on another sunder just in case. That's it. Now he's officially rage bait. Look at my rage bar. These last 30 seconds, I really haven't gone over or under 50% rage. So look, I'm pulling again. I got to keep that rage going. My healer has 50% mana. We're basically pulling 1 or 2 mobs at a time. We're fine. Look at my rage. I'm just, if you are going into pulls without rage, you are doing your group a disservice. You have to have rage almost every pull. Now at a low level like this, you have blood rage. If you have any sort of downtime where you have somebody drinking or whatever, and you don't want to lose that rage, you basically use blood rage as a placeholder to keep that rage up because you gain 10 rage and then you gain more per second. That is like your stopper. So let's say someone needs to drink for 15 seconds. You don't want to lose your 60 rage. I'm going to pop blood rage now, keep the rage flowing so that we can keep pulling. Look, Sunder, demo shouts. I throw out a battle shout as well. I have the hook on these mobs and I haven't even done anything to them yet. Literally just from demo shout, battle shout, and I'm working on the elite. I have 2 Sunders on the elite. Look at my rage. I have all that rage to use on these other mobs now. These mobs are hitting me. I'm gaining rage. You see me shout again. I barely have touched these mobs and I have 170 threat and the next person on my list has 0. Let's keep going a little bit here. This room's a little tricky. I'm not really going to be talking about pulling or anything. You know, obviously you should have a ranged weapon. Again, this video was more towards kind of like basically just the ins and outs of tanking. Again, 1 mob. Look at my rage bar. I'm going to keep pulling. Anytime you have 1 mob, consider it just a rage bait. If it hits a player, it does not matter. I'm just auto attacking. 2 Sunders up. Good. I have my 2 Sunders up before he was 50% health. I'm now using him as rage. Look at that. I still have 50% of a rage bar after 2 Sunders. It's basically like I didn't even use any rage. I just got a massive crit. I'm going to throw a Sunder up. Look at my threat. I've done 1 Sunder and a crit. I have 300 more threat than the next player. I do not need to press anything else. And this is where people get confused. They feel like they just have to keep pressing Sunder. They have to keep pressing revenge. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Look at your threat bar. I have 1 Sunder and a crit up. This guy is now rage bait or girl. I have a full rage bar to use for these next mobs. It's all about learning how to use your rage bar as a weapon. Use it as a way to dictate the pace. Use it as a way to make the run faster, but also more efficient. Once you learn how to do that, the rest comes very easy. Again, I'm literally only pressing Sunder. I'm pressing Revenge when I have it. I'm using my shouts. And I don't even really touch Heroic Strike unless I have all of those pressed and I have nothing else to press. I hope this video helped. I know it's very basic, but I see time and time again, people are getting very confused when it comes to overusing their rage, essentially, on targets that necessarily don't even matter. People are using Thunderclap, which is a big no-no, and then they switch stances and then they realize they have no rage. You have a very simple rotation. It's literally all about how to conserve your rage. I hope this video helped. If you guys have more questions, let me know. I know it's been a while, so this video was kind of rusty and I'm kind of all over the place, but it's more of just a conversation about how to be tanking at a low level. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you guys another time.